we have heard you like things TFP or Facebook Live. So we're taking you inside the newsroom a little early today to tell you what's coming in. Let's start with cars. We're going to be talking cars, waterfalls in the millions, and good old football. So let's start with the cars. This is one of the first, Chattanooga, one of the first in the nation to do this electric car ride share, right? Right. Yeah. What does that mean?
Yeah, it's like, you guys know, you can get on, there's the little bike stands around town, and you can go in and you can rent a bike for an hour, or you can have a membership. Well, it's going to be kind of like that, but with electric cars. They're going to get Nissan Leafs. I think they're starting out with 20 Nissan Leafs. And it's a deal that they made with CARTA to help finance this. And it's part of the city's overall plan to kind of bring a lot of different ways of moving yourself around town. So they're trying to get away from the idea that a car is really the only way. And there's a lot of controversy over that because bike lanes have been a big part of that, and people are really worried about having bikers on the road. And
people are very worked up by bike lanes. We hear you.
Bikers get really worried about cars passing too close and clipping them, and there's been injuries and things like that. So it's sometimes the discussions get very heated, as they should, because there's a safety issue.
Yeah,
there.
I was just told yesterday, actually, from a Facebook friend, Dina Newcomb, there's a whole Facebook page about the MLK bike lane, so we need to check that out.
Yeah.
People are so heated.
An actual Facebook page.
Yes, a Facebook page. So when all this happened, and they're talking about our coverage and what they like, what they don't. So hey, talk about it.
Yeah, and one of the things, we got a really interesting email the other day from a gentleman who was really upset. He had read something in the newspaper that was like anti-bike lane, and he's like, "Oh man, TFP, you are so biased against these bike lanes," because I saw an article, and we were like, "Hey man, this is the opinion section. Like so there's different sections in the newspaper. You have the opinion section, and those are all going to be opinions, as the section name might suggest. And you'll have people who are on the left side, liberals. You'll have people on the right, conservatives. We have columnists. Yeah, there's some people in the middle. We kind of have a hard time deciding which page to run them on sometimes. But they're all going to be opinions. They're usually going to support something or not support something. That's a separate section of the newspaper from our news coverage, which is business features, which is objective journalism, and actually the opinion people are way on the other side of the building. We don't even really talk to them a lot of the time. They do kind of their own thing. So
what they say about opinions.
Yeah, just to clear up any confusion there is on how the newspaper operates there. I don't really have an opinion as a journalist one way or the other on bike lanes, but we're definitely enjoying covering it because you're enjoying reading about it, and definitely you're forming a lot of opinions, and that's something where we like to see people get engaged because of our coverage, and we like to see people if there's something going on.
And we want to do stories you care about, so we're listening
and people
to you.
care about this. So that was a really long rabbit trail that gets us back to electric cars.
And Dave Flessner, our business editor, is who wrote this objective story, and he went out to Hamilton Place Mall yesterday, checked out the electric cars, and
got to drive one. I've got to drive one before.
Yes, and you've gotten to drive one before too, and you have some interesting reporter adjectives about the cars.
Well, okay, so they're kind of awesome. They don't have a internal combustion engine because they're electric, and so they've got a big old battery and then a device that turns battery power into motion. And they're very quiet. And some of these cars, they actually have to add an engine noise because if you're crossing the crosswalk, you don't even hear them. You might not even look.
That would not be good with the bike lanes.
Yeah, potentially. But they're extremely powerful. If you know what torque means when you hit the accelerator in your car, whether it's a Volkswagen Jetta or a Camaro, but that feeling of getting pushed back in the seat, there's a lot of torque in these engines, so they're very powerful. But it's a weird sensation because you're shoved back in your seat
like that,
and there's no noise. All you hear is the wheels against the road and maybe a little whine from the transmission. The transmission is weird too because you don't have traditional gears on these things. They use what's called a continuously variable transmission. Okay. So there's theoretically an infinite number of gears. So you're not going to have a stick shift probably in these things. It's a really the whole thing is it's a totally different type of car.
Examples from Ellis Smith today.
Yeah, so they're really interesting, but I mean obviously a lot of people have range anxiety. Like, am I going to run out of battery? Generally when you fill up your tank, I'm going to get 140 miles or 350 miles or whatever it is. But with electric cars, maybe you're going up Lookout Mountain and you thought you could make it all the way up there, and so people are worried about that. And so that's the number one thing I think that automakers are working on right now is trying to extend that range. And Tesla, has some cars that can go 200,
Nice,
300
I know.
miles on a charge, although you still have to charge them.
Right.
But since these are rentals, I don't think you're going to have that as much, because you're just going to be tooling around town like you would with a bike. You might get in it to go from the North Shore to the South Side, or from the South Side out to Highland Park. I don't see people renting one of these and driving to Knoxville, but who knows?
Right. So we do have some pictures of the Nissan Leafs in the paper for you and on our website. But what we want to do is to show you video on Facebook Live potentially of how these things work and ask all these questions that needs to be addressed. So I just did make a call. So we're going to try to do that for you next week. So stay with us on that. And if you're wondering how this came about, it was backed by a $3 million grant from Tennessee Valley Authority. CARTA contracted the Los Angeles startup known as Green Commuter to equip the Leafs.
So they're actually kind of managing the whole program.
Right. And we have all of that info for you from our business editor, awesome reporter, Dave Flessner. So check that out. And we're going to move on to...
We want to talk about how it costs real quick?
Costs. That's important.
Initial application is $25, so they're going to check you out. This is going to be like a bike, pretty much. You don't have to have like a license necessarily, but you just go get the bike and you ride. This is a vehicle. Even though it's an electric vehicle, it's not a golf cart. So there's a $25 application fee. They're going to check you out, make sure you don't have a lot of felonies, you have a license. And then there's a $50 annual membership, and you can rent them for $9 an hour.
Okay.
So that's what it's going to cost. So a lot of people were asking that when we initially reported on this. So they do have those numbers now, $9 an hour.
We have more information too.
Timesfreepress.com.
Yes,
go check
on
it out.
how to charge
There's
them.
a million things.
Yeah, Dave is really good about covering all angles, all the information for you. He's a pro. And again, I know you want to talk about waterfalls. Don't go chasing waterfalls.
Yeah, I've been chasing them for too long.
He has.
But you try to stick with the rivers, the lakes, and the streams. You're way better off, is what I hear.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, Ruby Falls doesn't have to go chasing anymore because they're getting a $20 million upgrade. And we do want to mention Ruby Falls has been here since 1929, home to America's deepest commercial cave and largest underground waterfall, open for public viewing. It features a 145-foot waterfall located 1,120 feet beneath the surface of Lookout Mountain. So I know when you're driving into town or friends, tourists you see all the signs for Ruby Falls. Well, it's getting this huge upgrade. So
I wish our reporter Shelley Bradbury was here, because this is one of her favorite things.
Really?
She always takes people to Ruby Falls.
Okay.
And I guess it's one of those things you can't really see a lot of places. As I said, it's the largest commercial cave and all this. It's an underground waterfall. It is what it is, but it's really neat. You're going underground if you like caves, if you like kind of being in the dark and looking at the stalactites and the stalagmites. It is really remarkable, and they've put a lot of work into it already to where it's really well lit, and you can, it's not necessarily scary. But they also do a really neat haunted house.
Yeah, that's
we're
coming
up on Halloween,
holidays.
so I want to plug that. That's one of the best haunted houses that I've been to.
My favorite holiday.
And of course, it's not a house; it's a cave. You actually are going to go into the cave on Halloween, and they set all that up. But this renovation, they're going to have, better ticketing
The primary goal is to provide an efficient and comfortable place where guests can enjoy relaxing and hang out for longer periods of time. And they do say they have been, or they will be, starting in January, on a new entrance lobby and ticketing process, new elevators, observation platforms, restrooms, parking, retail, photo facilities, all of that.
So basically the whole place.
And, just everything. And the theme is roaring into the 20s.
Roaring 20s. So it's going to be a little Art Deco maybe a little bit of little retro styling to that. So that'll be really neat. Which is interesting because a lot of these tourist attractions in Chattanooga, like Ruby Falls and like Rock City, the 1920s were sort of when a lot of this took off, and this was a really huge tourist destination. So I think they're trying to play up that nostalgia
That's a good idea.
Angle a little bit. Yeah, it's very smart.
Okay, and that, as a reporter and our visual digital team, that says to me we need to get pictures of all of this as it happens, and
which we will
take you behind the scenes of the whole expansion. So we will get on that for you, make those calls, make it happen to show you. And we can't forget about football today.
Who can forget about football?
Never. I was saying Texas forever, but Friday Night Lights, we should say Tennessee forever. And speaking of Tennessee, Josh Malone showing big play potential in Vols' run first offense. And we have a great picture of that for you on our website, timesfreepress.com. This is by Patrick Brown, and what's going on with Malone is his QB is showing him some love, and I always find this interesting between the players, the relationships that go on. Josh Dobbs, as I mentioned, the QB said, quote, "Trust is built in the preseason and the off season and the time leading up to the season. Me and Malone have a great chemistry and great connection. He's been able to go up and make plays, and I've been able to put the ball where the defender can't get it, and only he can make the play on it." So it sounds like they really working together, need each other, and there's football, politics, sports, all of it have a ton of emotion, and these kind of relationships that make it all work or don't work. So we'll see how they play.
This is the interesting fact here too. He's got a 31.8 yard average per catch. That leads the SEC. Now it's early in the season, of course, but that's no joke.
At this embryonic.
Yeah, I mean that's like a third of the field almost. So every time he catches the ball, he runs about a third of the field. That's
crazy.
That's pretty good if you can keep that up for the whole season. So we'll look forward to watching him, and we'll have live coverage,
local coverage too.
We've got some local guys. Patrick Brown up in Knoxville is going to cover the heck out of the Vols. I think Ohio is visiting them, I believe, this Saturday. So we'll have coverage of that game as it happens, and then analysis the following day from our columnists and reporters, as well as coverage on Georgia and Alabama football as well.
Yeah.
So
covering it all.
We're in kind of a strange place here in Chattanooga at the border between Georgia, Alabama, and Tennessee, and so it's a challenge to cover that many major SEC teams and prep teams with different leagues and rules, but we're going to do it, and it's going to be awesome, and you're going to love it. So stay tuned. Saturday, come check us out, and then Sunday morning for the what you missed.
And local, I mentioned real quick, we're doing our Thursday TFP on Facebook football previews with our sports editor here,
I should have mentioned
Stephen
that.
Hargis. And that's why I am. Anyways, Stephen's done a great job of talking to the coaches and the players in setting these up for us. So tomorrow we are scheduled to go to Boyd Buchanan unless anything crazy news-wise happens. We always have these things scheduled, but anything
breaking news can happen.
Yeah. So Boyd Buchanan is supposed to be where we'll be tomorrow, probably around noon. So check that out on our Facebook page. Just type in Chattanooga Times Free Press, and then we have some really cool things scheduled. We want to focus on Howard's Band, do some tailgating. There's a really cool ship in South Pittsburgh that the players run through with fire and smoke. So we have a lot.
I want to meet the guy who loads the fire and the smoke into the pirate ship. So that's going to be, if you're out there, I want to meet you. I want to talk to you.
I want to have a football moment and run through it. So
yeah, we should do that.
We'll work on all that hard-hitting journalism.
And I should say, as a person who I came to Chattanooga in 2010, and so I'm totally unfamiliar with all the prep stuff. I've just been learning as I go. Watching Stephen and Leslie, talk to these coaches and players, I'm learning a ton about some of this stuff and a ton about these matchups that I would never otherwise know. So it's definitely worth a watch.
And even if you're not a big fan of the game, like we mentioned, these relationships and everything, there's so much heart and so many people involved in it's like behind the game. I used to work for a show called Fox Sports America. It reminds me of that, all the player stories and the coach stories. So even if you're not all into the tackles and the games and the points, we have more for you. So just stay with us, and there's something for everybody, we hope. And you guys can keep commenting.
And if there's not, let us know, and we'll look into it. We'll try to do it. If there's something you're interested in that we're not doing a good job of covering, we want to do better. So let us know.
All an opinion.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We'll see you tomorrow on timesfreepress.com.
Bye.